It's time to put the remote control down. The talking heads are done. It's time for unfiltered takes over a nightcap. You're invited inside to discuss the weekend's biggest disasters, the surprising heroes, and everything that got missed over the course of the weekend. This is where the best late-night sports talk happens. Welcome inside the ETB Lounge. And now, here's your bartender of banter for the evening, Callan McClurg. Who let them dogs out inside the lounge tonight? I don't know who that was. Either way, the brackets are being printed, folks. The jet fuel is getting more expensive, and the NFL has officially entered its annual legal tampering fever dream, where verbal agreements are worth exactly as much as the paper they are written on. Welcome inside the lounge, my friends. My name is Callan McClurg for Monday, March 9th, and that means the NFL, nobody is technically allowed to sign anything, yet somehow Mike Evans is already shopping for real estate in the Bay Area. The bombshell dropped today after 12 seasons in Tampa. The six-time Pro Bowler has a new home for a 3-year deal with the San Francisco 49ers. And if you're a Bucs fan, this feels like it is a day from hell. If you're Brock Purdy, you now have a 6'5" security blanket who catches everything but a cold. And Mike Evans doesn't just change the offense, but he also changes the gravity, perhaps, of the entire NFC come the upcoming NFL season. While the NFL is busy spending billions of dollars in new contracts, the role of college basketball is breaking hearts and canceling parties. First, Ben Cruz's UConn women steamrolled the tournament again and routed Villanova 90-51 to secure their 24th conference championship. Holy cow. Sarah Strong and Ozzie Fudd are playing like they've already seen the script for Cleveland, entering the big dance at a perfect 34-0. In the SEC, though, Texas sent a massive shockwave through the bracket by upsetting South Carolina on Sunday, 78-61, to take the tournament crown as well. And in the men's game, John Calipari finally hit the Niner-win milestone as Arkansas outlasted Missouri in OT, and Logo Michi Johnson kept the magic alive for South Carolina with the men, with a 35-foot buzzer beater, but still orbiting the planet. Then there is the NBA, where today Adam Silver just turned into the ultimate party pooper, with the league officially stepping in to cancel the Hawks' Magic City Night promotion set for next Monday. Apparently celebrating an iconic strip club was a bridge too far for the league's partners. So if you're looking for those lemon pepper wings at State Farm Arena, you're out of luck. The NBA decided that the culture was a little bit too authentic for a Monday night matchup in Atlanta. We've got all the receipts on the NFL, Mike Evans' new contract, and the fallout of the Texas upset. And while the NBA is suddenly allergic to some really good wings from Atlanta, Georgia. The lounge is open for this Monday alongside the night, as always. Nick Morgeson, Ben Cruz, and also our good man Dino Taibbi on this Monday night game. Mike Evans is now a 49er. The Huskies are again untouchable, and Magic City is off the guest list. Nick, as always, good to see you, my friend. How are we doing tonight? As always, good to see you.
Tired, but I'm ready to go. NFL free agency madness. Yes, I know how excited you are to talk about that sport. But no, it was a crazy, crazy day. And also you and I looking forward to a WNBA lockout or strike.
Dun, dun, dun,
dun. So it's going to be a good one. We have a lot to talk about, so I'm looking forward to it.
We got a lot of ground to cover. Ben Cruz joins us again here on ETB Lounge. Ben, welcome in. Good to see you as always, my friend. How we doing?
Doing good. Like Nick mentioned, there's a lot of stuff in football today. Happy UConn women won again. The men took a tough one on Saturday. World Baseball Classic I'm tuning in for as well. Let's go US.
Yeah, we'll have some World Baseball Classic later in the show. And, of course, our good man Dino Taibbi also joining us. Dino, welcome aboard, man. Great to see you.
Good to see you, too. It's March, so there's a lot going on. There's basketball, there's baseball, there's football, there's everything.
A partridge in a pear tree.
Everything is going on. NBA playoff runs, Stanley Cup playoff runs. MLS is just getting underway. We're getting closer for the World Cup coming up in a couple of months as well. So, like, everything is almost hitting the fan at the same exact time. A quick program note for you folks, in case you're wondering why we came on here about half an hour later than usual. I was at work today from about 4 o'clock local time till right at 6 o'clock. Nick can appreciate when a college softball game runs 2 hours on the dot and not over 2 hours, as was the case today. So, had to make the trip back home. Kind of get settled, though, take care of the dog for a bit. So that's why we're here a little bit later than usual on this Monday. Again, folks, quick follow-up again. You can follow us on social media. We're at the ETB Lounge. And, of course, follow us on the network pages over at ETB Network. That is, of course, on Twitter, IG, and TikTok. And, of course, make sure you like and subscribe over at youtube.com/ETB Network. Mr. Morgeson, I think we have a nice little milestone and a brand new roster acquisition to also touch base on here before we get into the nitty-gritty of the show tonight.
Oh, you mean Nate, who we talked about? So we did announce a new show. Actually, so Nate Miller, you've probably seen it all over our social medias. He's hosting a show called Give and Takes. Actually made a video of his own, and he is officially part of our network now. And you will see him on Monday nights on this show also as well. And also amongst a bunch of other live shows. Ben, he is a huge baseball nut, so that might be a show you might see him on from time to time. But Nate is 22 years old. He is a young kid with a lot of energy, a lot of passion, Michigan State guy, so he fits right in with Zan and Will and all those guys at the Big Ten.
Yeah, he's coming out of right time of the madness.
Yeah, he's big college basketball guy, big NFL guy, and he doesn't manufacture fake takes like a certain somebody who used to be here. So yes, you'd have to know that joke as an inside joke to really get it.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. But no, I'm looking forward to it. His show, we're still working out the finalizing of when the show's going to drop on this side of our network, but you're going to see him a lot on our live side. So just be aware you will see him on this show.
And of course, folks, if you are joining us live today, already got 105 people, about 12 minutes coming into the lounge. Glad to have our regulars with us. If you are a regular, but of course, if you're watching live on Twitter or on YouTube again, questions, comments, concerns, hot takes, cold takes, loony takes, off the wall takes, or some liquid courage takes, even drop those in the live chat box. We do our absolute best always to make sure those are in fact read live and in full. We're with you here until 9:30 Pacific time, so please do not be bashful. We don't like people to be shy around these parts of the bar here.
And if you're going to take shots at me, then go ahead, because I know you're going to do it anyway.
And if you want more about the comment section involving Nick Morgeson, watch the D-Mart version on Saturday or Sunday, because it's like it's like Nick Morgeson, folks, lives rent-free in like every social media troll's head when it comes to content on this platform.
I got yelled at because apparently they didn't like my take about UFC 326 the other day. Like,
wow.
And I was like, the card stunk. It was terrible.
Well, what do you mean? You know, what do you know?
And my favorite was the comment was, well, no one cares about your opinion. And I'm like, bro, you commented in our comment section. So obviously you do care.
Care to comment?
That they literally wrote in our comment section, no one cares about your opinion. And I'm like, you obviously do, because you commented.
Right.
There's some weird like sports media or like sports pundit crusade against Nick Morgeson on this platform when it comes to any content that gets put out. He always gets to seem to be put through the shredder. I don't get it.
But see, the differences between me and most people is I take it on the chin and I move on. Other people will sulk and then turn it into like everybody hates me. But whatever.
Oh, man. All right, guys, we'll get to our round of takes, our 3 opening headlines for the bar to get the night underway. The appetizers for the night, though, first of all, we'll actually go first to UConn women's basketball, as we already mentioned, capturing another conference title, remaining unbeaten at 32-0. While the world was focused on Texas and South Carolina, UConn once again reminds everybody who is still the favorites. They beat Villanova earlier as well over the course of the day. Ben Cruz, you are the UConn resident fan here, myself partially as well, though, as well. But Ben, you're probably way more accustomed to this than I am. Again, I'm more of an outside UConn fan from all the times of my, uncle and aunt living back there and all the years of the early 90s and 2000s, though. But Ben, is UConn right now being undefeated actually more impressive than other storylines of like South Carolina at one point, given the pressure of them being the last zero on the board? Because, Ben, I don't know if I've seen one program own a sport in college athletics, though. Again, maybe the UCLA era with Wooden, for example, comes to mind. Then, of course, there's the UConn juggernaut, the Tennessee women's basketball juggernaut for a long time. But, Ben, maybe from your perspective, is this UConn team right now maybe better than last year's team because of how they played?
Yeah, I mean, obviously last year losing Paige Beckers was obviously a massive loss. But I do think, looking around, they obviously still have one of the greatest coaches in women's basketball, and they brought two of the best girl athletes in women's college basketball, and Azzi Fudd and Sarah Strom. And Sarah Strom was freshman player of the year last year. She is blossoming, in terms of one of the best, big men, the best big woman in the league. I'm always just saying big man when I'm talking basketball. Look at women's here. Azzi's obviously a great shooter, and you have like other girls as well too doing their thing. I mean, KK Arnold, and others, just kind of coming in. They had a lot of returners this year from last year's team, and obviously outside of Paige leaving. So I think it's just an impressive group. I really think, they'll definitely be in the Final Four for sure. And it's been great as a UConn fan. It's the basketball capital of the world, and I'm going to say it. I always will say it. I'm a little biased here, but they don't say it for nothing. And, to get another championship tonight was awesome. And the men's obviously have had a great year as well, too. So there's always been the dual champs potential every single year, which has been awesome to see because you don't get that from many college basketball teams, at least from both the men's and the women's side. But I do think that this overall run is very impressive because you look at it too. There's a lot of people that think, well, they're playing a lot of easy teams, early on in their terms of their women's, career, in terms of franchise. But now there's teams that are getting better year after year after year. So yeah, I think it's impressive, Callan. You pretty much asked me because they're playing teams, South Carolina, Tennessee, and they're killing them right now. So they pretty much at the best of the best.
Nick, I'm glad that Ben went to that point, though, because, for a long time, and I think Ben would agree, though, too, when UConn made that, I think, very bogus decision to leave the Big East for the American Athletic Conference, I want to say a decade ago, maybe a bit longer, that was, I think, where really I think a lot of people turned off women's basketball, not for all the stupid minutia we read in chat boxes or on comment sections of women's sports content when it comes to, this, or this. But even I'm like, this is a major step down, though. Like, Tulane's not going to give you competition. Navy won't give you competition. They're beating teams, or they were up, so many times, on teams back then, like 60-15 at one point in some of those games. Then, of course, they come back to the Big East, though. But I think, though, Nick, that Ben is so right because now Gino's not afraid now to schedule the bigger names, because I think, though, Nick, the parity now, as Ben was alluding to, has gotten that much better because of the rise of South Carolina, because of even a UCLA with Corey Close in that program, Iowa State with Audrey Crooks playing in the Big 12, like Texas, Tennessee, there are now, I think, some other worthy challengers to the whole notion of, hey, women's basketball is boring because UConn always wins. Not that when we've had the explosion, I think, though, of fan interest, Nick, as we know from the sports business and media side, because of, Iowa at one point, Kim Mulkey and LSU recently, even Gino early on, though. But I guess, Nick, though, more impressive maybe in your mind to see a team like UConn go 32-0 with where, though, that women's basketball has gone over the course of the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 years.
I mean, is it really surprising to me that UConn women's basketball is a success? I mean, Ben could talk about this from track record. Gino is one of the most successful college basketball coaches in the history of the game. I mean, there's very few guys you could put up there. I mean, Coach K is one. I put Boeheim up there as one of the big names. But Gino probably takes the cake. I think he's got 11 NCAA titles, if I remember correctly. Yep. I mean, The guy is just a success, and this is not the first time he's had a consecutive win streak. I think he's had longer consecutive win streaks. I think he had a home win streak of like 80 plus. I think at one point.
Ben, what was it? Was it 98 straight wins during Maya Moore's time, or was it 101?
It was 101.
I think it was 101.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not a surprise. Like he's going to coach until he doesn't want to coach anymore. That's just how he's going to go. But this is, I don't know if I'd call it impressive. I would just call it the norm, because I think it's just what we expect out of Gino from all the success he's had in his career. Like you look at all the long-term coaches across professional sports. What do they do best? It's consistency. When you're consistent, you stay in the job forever. When you're not consistent, you get fired and you don't keep a job. So I think it's just the norm and consistency that really matters here.
Dino, I think Nick's right, though, especially, the phrase we throw around so much is the ever-changing landscape of college athletics because of the portal. NIL is a thing. Where I think, Dino, that, I agree, Nick, with that as well. I think, Dino, what I think separates UConn away from everyone else in women's basketball, and sadly, this is even like, a bit of a, maybe not a separation from Don Staley with South Carolina, is obviously the winning tradition's one thing. But I also think, though, Dino, too, that there's just something, though, about Gino's coaching, Gino's philosophy, the one-liners or something. But that it's a thing, though, that people throw around a lot, though. It's also, I think, team culture is a thing. Obviously, the standard is winning at UConn. But it's also about, staying there 3 to 4 years, though, or whatnot. But I guess, Dino, perspective, though, about UConn having another unbeaten season and winning another Big East title earlier on Monday here today.
Yeah, I mean, Nick hit the nail on the head. Like it's become expected at this point. There are, obviously, it's very tough to, maintain, like in college, especially because you lose so many of your core players when they go pro. It's tough to maintain that year-to-year consistency. But there are certain programs that are able to do it, and obviously the UConn women's is probably the best example of that, along with perhaps Duke and men's. They've been able to sustain their success even after Coach K left. But yeah, right now UConn women's, they're there every year, and you can expect them to continue to be there every year because they've just built that sustained success that you just come to expect every year at this point.
Ben, I want to go back to you real quick for one last word here before we move on to our flat beer of the weekend and night is, obviously the goal in anything is to win. And obviously UConn has won, been there, done that. But Ben, probably from your perspective too, because I didn't really get it. This now just came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, though, of what I said about when there was the whole, articles are put out, oh, UConn's bad for women's basketball. Where's the competition? Where's this? Again, it was around a time, though, where they had gone from the Big East to the AAC. Ben, even with all the success and the winning, has it, though, for you been good, or has it for you felt good maybe in a roundabout way to maybe seeing that now the competition is probably getting duplicating the UConn success, though, but because of South Carolina, Iowa, LSU, UCLA, even Texas, Tennessee, that maybe that other programs now are at least trying to at least get competitive now with UConn? Is it, or perhaps good, though, for the health of the sport, I guess, is what I'm getting at from your perspective, though, even as a UConn fan. But now that there's actual teams who can go toe-to-toe and hang with UConn now on a more consistent basis than in the past.
Yeah, no, I think it's good for women's basketball to be more balanced. I do think over time, as great as it is to just see blowouts, year after year, with the really good teams, kind of got boring, and I know obviously, winning, of course, kind of cures everything, but like even like myself, like you obviously kind of want to have more balance. And, Don Staley with Carolina and Notre Dame with Marty McGrath, there's obviously a lot more parity, I think, than there was before. And I think just it makes it a lot more in terms of just watchable product too. I think for people, at least, you kind of can see now with Iowa, with Callan McClurg, you might have some like other girls that like might want to go to a school that's not UConn. And I mean, I just think it's kind of nice to kind of just see like other colleges kind of on the come up because they see what UConn has brought in, and they've brought in some of the best WNBA players that are out there, whether it's Maya Moore and Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird, at least to name a few. So I do think, Callan, that UConn, their program is one of the standards. I think that's one thing that I can really classify. If I had to have an overall term for UConn basketball, is the standard, because you want to be able to kind of play the best of the best. And I think the best of the best more recently has been a lot more coming up with some of these other programs. And I think it's good. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, the competition getting there, UCLA's built something special. USC, though, Juju Watkins has been hurt. Great for the game, too. I love Lindsey Gottlieb, who's their head coach, too. Great personality. So nice to see that the game is finally catching up to UConn, who, again, wins another conference title here today. Gentlemen, the Flat Beer Award goes to the NBA front office, who officially intervened and stepped in on Monday morning to cancel the Atlanta Hawks' planned Magic City theme night set for next Monday, March 16th, citing what they called brand alignment concerns. The Hawks are planning specialized jerseys and also the famous lemon pepper wings from the club for the event. Nick Morgeson, is the NBA being too corporate by killing a promotion that leans into Atlanta's local culture? Or was this a PR disaster waiting to happen and unfold in real time next Monday in the ATL?
Oh, no, they had to cancel this event. They had no choice. You have to remember the audience and the demographic that you're playing to inside an NBA arena, where it's a younger-ish crowd. Well, generally in most sporting events, you have a younger demo when you're...
You've got families coming. You've got, kids that are still obviously young that are coming to games usually.
Yeah, and you need to remember there's kids, and not just teenagers. We're talking about, like, young kids, like my niece and nephew, who are 5 and 7 right now, like, that are in the crowd trying to become a sports fan for the first time. So this was a disaster from the start. When they said that, when the Hawks announced that they were doing a Magic City Monday promotion all about the culture in Atlanta, and I'm sorry, a strip club is not part of culture in Atlanta. If you're going to say it's part of culture and technicality because it's a place that's been around for, I think they said like 2 or 3 decades it's been around for, when their only claim to fame is that you basically go and I can't even say that on this show.
Well, I mean, the claim to fame is Lou Williams went to the club during the COVID bubble, broke protocol, and because he wanted
just to get the lemon pepper wings, for crying out loud. Now, I heard they're good. Not that I would know, because I've never been there. But my point is, this was a horrible promotion from the start. And then you had guys like Luke Cornett and Al Horford coming out and basically saying, hey, we're protesting against this promotion, which, first of all, a promotion is bad when your own players are coming out against it and protesting that they don't want this to happen. And then you had Michelle Beadle on the other side, which, by the way, I think Michelle Beadle only goes viral when she wants to say some incredibly dumb things because she keeps getting herself thrown off at ESPN and radio and all this stuff. She's like, oh, well, women shouldn't be objectified, and women should be allowed to do whatever job they want and all this stuff. Let them make the choice. Michelle, that's not what this is about. It's not. It's about the audience and the demo that we're showing to kids inside an NBA arena. That's what we're trying to put an end to. And people say, well, you have most of the audience is 18 above. Fine. You want a 18 or a 21 and overnight? Go do it at a bar. Go do it at a club if you want to have a 21 and overnight, not at an arena where kids are.
Yeah, not in a sporting event. I know people can say, well, what about when teams do a pride night or a military appreciation night or this or that? It's 2 completely different ordeals here.
That drove me crazy because I showed that to Callan before the show, that people say, oh, well, boo-hoo, they canceled the Magic City Monday. They should cancel Pride Night. What is Pride Night? What does Pride Night have to do with a Magic City Monday strip club promotion?
Yeah. Ugh.
Brutal.
It's like apples and oranges. You're talking about 2 different things here.
Yeah, big time. I mean, Ben, look, obviously, teams that struggle with playing on the court or the fields of play, they sometimes have to resort or get creative to bring people to a game. You know, there's some lined up episodes of Benchmarks, our very highly successful Sunday audio podcast, where I'm going to talk about when Bill Veck had the idea for Disco Demolition Night at Comiskey Park. That was an utter train wreck because the White Sox sucked so badly.
10-cent beer.
We have one about 10-cent beer night also in Cleveland, where again the Indians were not playing great, and hey, come to a game, get drunk for for 10-cent beers. You know, in a way, and I think the Hawks are actually like in a playoff spot right now, which I think is very much interesting.
Yeah, they're like
which
they're
is
at
like
the bottom.
This is something though that you would resort to though when the team is not playing good. You just had a massive fire sale of your roster again. Trae Young going to the Wizards. But also, but it's one thing to honor city culture, like, for example, in 2029, San Diego turns 260 years old or whatever. It's one thing to do that, but not to do what the Hawks were trying to do come next Monday. So, Nick, did you want to add something real quick?
So the Hawks put out a tweet, which made me laugh, by the way, after the NBA made the announcement. They said, "While we're very disappointed in the NBA's decision to cancel our Magic City Night promotion, we fully respect its decision. As a franchise, we remain committed to celebrating the best of Atlanta with authenticity in ways that continue to unite and bring us all together." So you're trying to justify that Magic City is part of authenticity of Atlanta?
Yeah, no. Where is the crossover night with the Atlanta Braves? Where is the crossover night with the Falcons? The crossover night with Atlanta United, the soon-to-be NWSL franchise, the minor league hockey team. That's how you celebrate city culture if you're a sports franchise, is you honor the educators of your community, for example, or the nurses, first responders, the local military, or other teams that play with you in your market. That's how you honor city culture, and from my perspective. But Ben, your thoughts about seeing this promotion get scrapped though for next Monday?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, like Nick mentioned, like in terms of the Pride Night, that there's no correlation there at all. Like, it's crazy. I mean, the Hawks right now currently, I saw like an overall tweet that they're like one of the most average, like consistent franchises every single year. Just to put on this too. It's just, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy, Dino, because, you would feel like though this is more like a minor league baseball promotion that you would do. There are some teams who do a lot of really gimmicky promotions. But again, minor league baseball, you have to sell the product, though. An NBA franchise, Dino, should not be stooping to that kind of a minor league level to bring people to a basketball game with this sort of promotion.
No, I mean, I do agree it was not a good idea for a promotion. Not only is it not really family appropriate, but I'm not so sure that it would have really brought in any kind of new like demographic into your building.
Clientele,
right? Yeah. I will say though, I'm not so sure if I agree with the NBA stepping in and canceling it. Like, if the Hawks really felt committed to this promotion, I feel like they should have been allowed to go ahead and do it. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I really don't think it was a good idea on their part. I'm not sure what their marketing team was thinking, but I just kind of feel like they should have had the right to go ahead and do it if they really felt committed to wanting to do it. So I kind of feel bad that the NBA had to step in and cancel it for them. I'll just say that, but it was definitely a bad idea.
Yep. But there's the other part of this is then other people were taking the other side when the NBA stepped in, which this is even wilder to me because some big names were coming out. And I found the quote from Michelle Beadle. She said that it's not just a titty bar, and added, "I've had enough of men telling us what we can and shouldn't, and what we should want, and what we should need, and how we should act." Again, Michelle, this has nothing to do with what women should be allowed to do and what they shouldn't do. It has nothing to do with that whatsoever for that situation. But then people got mad when the NBA stepped in. What should the NBA have just allowed it to happen? they could be liable for this type of promotion.
I mean, they could be liable, and then you would have maybe blowback from sponsors of the team. League sponsors could have been upset for all that we know.
And then, like, my favorite is when NBA Communications drops that long,
The long press release.
because they're always too late to the party to drop the press release. Like, they should drop the press release first and then say what they're going to say, and they never do it in the right order. So then you're getting people saying, this is where you draw the line of canceling something. Like, why didn't you cancel the gambling shit that people were going through? So people are now comparing it to the gambling stuff to this, which I think that's apples and oranges too.
There's no comparison you can make. You can't make it to a theme night that honors the military or Pride Night or Women in Sports Night, let alone, the gambling scandal. This is about, again, this is a great idea, poor execution from my perspective of being around game operations and in-game entertainment and promotions and giveaway, in the promotions too, is that this is not how you celebrate Atlanta culture. Like, unless you are an absolute local, of Atlanta who knows about Magic City, the common man in Southern California, the common man in, Long Island, New York, and the common man in Boston wouldn't know Magic City unless it was about Lou Williams having the lemon pepper wings in 2020 during the course of the bubble. So if this was like a crossover with, again, like I said, if you do a crossover night with any of the Atlanta sports teams, people like us would get it, though. But if you're not from the ATL, you lose everybody in a retrospect that's not a part of the city.
And people... go ahead, Dino. Go.
Yeah, just to expand on my point of it being a bad idea from a marketing perspective as well. Besides the fact that it's not even appropriate, it's also not a good idea from a marketing perspective because strip clubs appeal to men in men in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and that's kind of the people who watch basketball to begin with anyway. So if you really want to appeal to a new demographic and come up with a better promotion, and not to mention there's so many better ways to honor city culture. I'm sure you could find plenty of other ways to honor Atlanta culture than
come on, Atlanta, you've got now I think what I heard though is that T.I. is still going to perform though, so I guess that is where's the night to honor Outkast or the entire hip hop culture? Where's the night to honor the Braves or the Falcons, as I've been kind of saying here for the last 15 minutes?
Yeah, and the other thing that's annoying me too is people they're in the awful announcing story, they're showing people saying they're quote tweeting Shams' tweet when he broke the news and saying, "Keep on gambling though, folks." Again, this has nothing to do with gambling. I don't know why people are comparing this to gambling.
Why are we so hell-bent, though, to try to compare this to anything else? Again, comparing a strip club to a Pride Night, insert branch of occupation appreciation night here, there is no comparison. That would be like the Padres doing a Pacers night to honor Tommy Pham getting stabbed at a strip club here in San Diego during the same pandemic 6 years ago.
See, and I think this is why the leagues
they eventually had to step in.
Well, but I was going to say, Callan, you and I have this conversation all the time. Why did the NHL step in and not allow them to wear the rainbow tape or whatever that they were using?
Pride tape, wear the jerseys for pregame warm-ups.
I'll tell you exactly why they do that. And all the leagues are doing it because they're so afraid of the backlash or the physical violence that's going to come from these nights that they don't want to deal with it. So they'd rather cut it off rather than do it. And unfortunately, it's not the league's fault. They're trying to protect people inside these venues because of the dangerous events we've had in some stadiums before. So they're basically saying, look, we got to cut this off. And I agree with Dino from one standpoint that it is technically the Hawks promotion. Could they technically?
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. No, go ahead.
So no, I agree with you on that standpoint that it is their promotion, or you'll see in New York or in LA, they hold separate promotions for certain things for their games, but it is still an NBA team, which is governed by the NBA at the same time. So if the NBA feels like their reputation is going to get tarnished or they're going to face liabilities, then I guess they do have to step in on some front to protect the league, or as in the NFL, they would say protect the shield.
Yeah, protect the branding, protect the brand integrity of your product.
But
the
each
NBA
team has like its own owner, right? So don't they have a certain amount of autonomy for their own team, like where they can run their team the way they see fit? Or
from a operations standpoint, they do. From the standpoint of certain promotions, the NBA, I guess, technically has some integrity to step in and say, is this good for the league? Because even though it's considered a local promotion, it's still representing the league from a small point of view still. Now, you could debate whether a local strip club represents all of the full national landscape of the NBA. That's definitely a debate you could have.
Definitely.
But I just think it was a bad look in general. Say, hey, let's promote a strip club. Let's do this promotion. Let's call it Magic City Monday. Like, they weren't even trying to hide it with the name of the promotion whatsoever. Like, that made it worse.
Please welcome your honorary player of the game, Lou Williams.
I mean, I heard that he was part of the promotion, by the way, which would have made sense. But please, for the love of God, do not compare this to gambling, because the whole gambling thing is a separate issue that the league is trying to deal with,
or compare it to aspiration.
Well, that's a whole different situation in itself. But but I didn't think a single strip club in Atlanta would turn into a whole national news story because of this. Like that's what's crazy. Like, we turned everything that's local into a national story.
And it's another case of the NBA stubbing their toe in some way, shape, form, or size.
Oh, thanks a lot, Adam Silver.
Exactly. All right, gents, to the bar brawl of the night. Maxx Crosby is now a Baltimore Raven. The Ravens send 2 first-rounders to Vegas for the league's most relentless edge rusher, and the Raiders are officially entering a Scorched Earth rebuild. Dino, did Baltimore punch their ticket to the Super Bowl already, or is giving up 2 first-round picks for a veteran a move they'll regret by 2028? Your thoughts on the trade that shook up the NFL before we even got to Monday?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Ravens are coming off a season where they didn't meet their expectations. So they felt like they needed to make a splash, and they made a big splash. They went and got one of the top edge rushers. And they're obviously in a win now mode, so they cared less about the picks that could turn into future stars, and rather they'd get the guy who's a star right now. The Raiders, on the other hand, are rebuilding, so they want the picks. So it's a move that kind of makes sense for both teams.
Ben, the Raiders have been rebuilding since, I believe, 2003, when they last got to the Super Bowl, ironically enough, at Qualcomm Stadium, and they got blown out by John Gruden and Brad Johnson with Tampa Bay when they got beat 48-23, I believe, that year. And it's been a never-ending cycle of new coaches, new quarterbacks, and, I thought the Raiders had built something kind of special around the pandemic season when they finally got back in the playoff running, where I think they beat the Chargers at the final gun of overtime in a game that was a snore fest to make it into the postseason. And they got their doors blown off. Now they're right back in the cycle again of having to rebuild, it seems like, for the 6th consecutive season. Of course, they have to dump Maxx Crosby. So, Ben, your thoughts on the trade, though? What does this mean, though, for both Baltimore and even Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Ravens, I think it's a really good move because their defense has been one of their biggest weaknesses when it comes to the playoffs, as good as it is. And, the Raiders, I just think they need to kind of start from the bottom, and they have the first pick with Fernando. So I think it's win-win for both sides. I really do.
Nick Morgeson. I got dragged to a Steelers fan bar here in town by a colleague of mine who's a live and die Steelers fan because she's born here, but from the East Coast. And obviously 9 years of being away from the NFL is one thing. And all the bars here have, changed a lot, have changed their teams to, whoever it might be. So this one bar we went to was a huge Steelers bar. I mean, this place is packed. Everyone's got their black and gold on. They're all playing, they play Renegade like it's a game at Acrisure Stadium. And I remember the building like shaking when the Ravens missed that game-winning field goal that would have sank the Steelers and got them into the playoff running. But I think the lasting shot, though, that I remember was the kicker for the Ravens again. I forget his name, though. Rookie kicker, though, misses the field goal, and he looks like he was, like he just like lost his pet, for example, because he looks so dejected. Obviously, them moving on from Harbaugh was also one thing. Nick, does this move, though, in a way, perhaps get Baltimore right back towards the top of the AFC North, or is there still some work to be done?
Well, I think the guy you're thinking of is Tyler Loop, by the way, the rookie kicker for
I think that's his name. I forget, though.
I kind of felt bad for him because it wasn't.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't all his fault. You could blame Lamar for a lot of that game too, the way he played. They have a lot to fix now with a rookie head coach coming off Harbaugh for 18 straight seasons. I mean, they got some work to do. Maxx Crosby's a great pickup. Don't get me wrong; he's one of the best defensive rushers in the game, but that's not going to fix their issue. Lamar's got to play better. Lamar looked hurt all of last season, and he was afraid to run out of the pocket, which is his bread and butter. When the pocket collapses, he can take off for 30, 40 yards and put them in proper field position to score. Like I said, defensively has not really been the Ravens' problem. It's the offensive weapons that they just don't have currently, and I think they need to figure out that situation. And Derrick Henry is right now their top offensive weapon right now. Okay. And they're not going to survive if Derrick Henry is going to be their top weapon. He's going to have a great year, but he's getting older. Running backs only have a certain shelf life. Go ask Saquon Barkley how that's working out right now with shelf life because of all his injuries. So I would say it's a good move, but no, they're not. They're not Super Bowl bound at all.
No, I mean, I really couldn't tell you more about it, though. But obviously they were, so close. But as I think Nick said, though, that I think some of the blame should be shouldered, though, by Lamar Jackson away from, Harbaugh, now getting a fresh start with the Giants and what have you. Obviously, the Steelers are also going to be looking for, I believe, Pittsburgh hired a new head coach, too, right? If memory serves me correct.
Yeah, McCarthy.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy going back there. We'll see if that plays out, how it plays out with Aaron Rodgers. But again, big trade, though. Maxx Crosby on his way to Baltimore. And by the way, I want to give Maxx Crosby some love, though. How he handled leaving Vegas, by the way, with his lengthy statement, nothing but class. Well done.
Well, he was an incredible charitable guy for the Raiders, too. Like, he kind of reminds me a little bit of J.J. Watt when he was with the Texans, who did all that charity work for the hurricane relief.
Yes.
Raising like $35 million, if I remember correctly. Like it was an insane amount of money. And that's what Maxx Crosby kind of seems like to me, where he just was a community guy. He fit in. He didn't want to leave. But because the way Tom Brady is running the organization, even though it's really not him, he's like figureheading the organization for oh God, what's the guy's name again, Callan? Because he owns the A's. Mark Davis, who I think is a little bit of an idiot himself.
I mean, his dad was kind of an idiot, though, too. If
Al Davis, yeah, but
just win, baby.
Right, but I don't know. I feel bad for Max because he liked playing there. Someone who actually liked playing with the Raiders. You don't hear that very often.
No, I mean, not since 2003, I think, because of how the Davis, family, including Al for so long, ran the organization. Then, from what I remember, though, that was a groundbreaking organization, like hiring a Tom Flores, hiring an Art Shell. Like the Raiders, really, despite their image, though, with all the guys who were that they played like thugs for so long back in the day, though, but they were also a groundbreaking franchise, though, for the hiring of Tom Flores, who finally got into the Hall of Fame about damn time, and hiring Art Shell to become the head coach, and what the Davis, fam tried to do for all those years. But again, Maxx Crosby on his way to Baltimore for 2 first-round picks, heading back to the Las Vegas Raiders on a chaotic Monday as they have opened up free agency in the NFL. However, though, gentlemen, we do have some breaking news. Gone final in Houston, gang. Team USA has defeated Mexico 5-3 to close out group play.
Yeah, this was a big matchup for them too. Like they
Hell of a game. Wow.
Didn't they
Got a little bit close for comfort though here after they were up 5-0 at one point.
Didn't they lose
well,
like their
Callan, being 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position would do it.
they
that
just were. But didn't they lose like their last 3 games to Mexico? Also,
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
had
got
no
trouble
luck
with
playing
them.
in the last couple of classics.
but 3-0 at a pool play. So
And great job, Nick, for both of our teams tonight on this game. You know, Aaron Judge hitting the homer, Roman Anthony for me, Jaron Durant had 2 homers for Mexico, and then Garrett Whitlock, my Red Sox guy, with the USA save. So,
yeah, hey,
I think I had a better day in the morning with Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting that grand slam against Israel today for the Dominican Republic.
hey, all of our teams
Everybody
did
did something good today.
see, you know what the thing is, and I said this again, and I'm not the biggest World Baseball Classic guy, but like someone asked me again the other day, like, "Oh, well, Red Sox player, you can't root," and I'm like, "Stop."
No, we're gonna have Jack Hughes syndrome again from the Winter Olympics in Milan
I
Cortina.
was juiced when Aaron Judge hit it tonight. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, like,
it's for
I
our
just-
country, man.
I was just like, "Stop! It's USA." Like, are we gonna do this? Like when supposedly because Bryce Harper was going off about how the MLB players should be allowed to go to the Olympics in 28 in LA. Like, just stop. Like, they're competing as a team. Like, it's not Yankees Red Sox. Trust me, and Ben knows this. There'll be plenty of time for Yankees Red Sox when the regular season comes.
Oh
Plenty
yeah,
of time for that and plenty of time
it's a
for
good time.
Padres
It's a
Dodgers.
good time to
Yes.
kind of be together at least beforehand. So
Right. So leave the World Baseball Classic to its own. Okay. Same thing with the Olympics. Leave the Olympics to its own. It has nothing to do with these guys playing. The Jack Hughes thing was just dumb because I'm a Rangers fan. You can't be happy for Jack Hughes. Like, who cares?
I mean, as Herb Brooks once said, the name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one in the back. So get that through your head, people.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right,
For
gents,
sure.
we'll empty the beverage on the World Baseball Classic, but about the early termination rules that are mainly used in Little League Baseball, travel ball. You know them better as mercy rules. But, of course, the mercy rule for the WBC is saving arms, but also breaking the tiebreaker math due to the fact that they're using run quotients, which is runs allowed divided by defensive innings played, as the lead tiebreaker. Teams that win too quickly actually have fewer defensive innings to balance their stats when it comes to perhaps winning or losing a group. Ben Cruz. Does ending games early for the tournament help protect player health, or does it bake a math error into the tournament that punishes dominant teams for winning too convincingly over teams like Czechia, for example?
talking the World Baseball Classic, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. I mean, there's a lot of guys, every single country, I think, they obviously bring out some US guys here and there, but like I think this overall tournament for baseball fans itself, it's kind of like a good way for, baseball fans to kind of rally around. I talked about this, Callan. I don't know if you were on this one or not, but I basically said that, we're probably not going to have baseball next year.
Right.
So I think for the baseball players themselves, they're probably like, well, I want to play as much as I can, obviously for my overall MLB team. But if I get the chance to play for my country, it's an absolute honor, and I think there's a lot of guys for US at least from this year's team, where they obviously bring some of the topper talent than they have in the past years. Of course, bringing in like guys like Paul Skeens and Bobby Witt Jr. and just, obviously some of the best. Then you look at teams like the DR with obviously with Tatis, Callan, and, Soto and, all these guys.
Vlad Jr., Machado, you name it.
Vlad Jr., yeah, Caminero, Rodriguez. And you're seeing all these crowds for these games. I mean, in Puerto Rico and, in Houston and Miami. It's honestly, it's unbelievable. I think, Nick, of course, you probably can, agree with it and know as much as you're kind of against it a little bit. But you could just admit that these overall crowds that you're seeing for a lot of these matchups, you can just kind of see the overall passion from all these countries in terms of what this baseball America's pastime is, and pretty much showing in terms of where we are as a country, kind of, being engaged with that in terms of, being behind it, just like the Olympics count, like we talked about with the hockey and everything like that. It basically is a good segue right to baseball now, and we're getting a really good thing going. And I just think that the rest of the tournament is just going to be, being awesome down the road. I mean, we have DR and Venezuela, 2 3-0 teams coming on Wednesday night, in Miami. Like you're talking about just crowds are going to be absolutely electric. And you're also going to have some of the great managers. Great managers, great announcers. It brings it all. It really, really does.
I mean, I just wish they would. I don't know. I think they would. I wish they would do this every 2 years instead of every 4 years.
I think it's every 3 that they usually do it. I think the last
it's
one
kind of
was
like the
23.
Olympics, to be honest. Kind of the way they have like every 3-4 years.
Oh, I thought it was every
think
4
2
years.
years would be awesome, but
I think it's every 3 right now
3
because
years,
of where the
yeah.
rotation's at.
Let
yeah.
me see. I'm just checking. Oh yeah, you're right. I guess it is every 3 years.
06, 09, and then like it took a bit of a delay, roughly. I want to say.
I also don't like the fact that it's in spring training. I think that's disruptive of the season.
That goes, and I think that goes to the point though that the question was asking though from the menu is that obviously now yes I know people that we've got some crap teams in here like Czechia and Nicaragua for example.
Brazil.
I mean that happens though with any global event where again the game is not global yet. Again, it's growing though in certain places like over in Europe where it's more of a soccer country or soccer nation.
I mean, yeah, Team Israel too
But
competing this year.
But I also, again, Nick, think, though, that, yeah, it's a little weird, though, seeing professional baseball in some way end early because of the run rule or what have you. But I think, though, Nick, it goes to your point, though, that we are in spring training again. And again, I will die on the hill. There is no proper time frame to have the WBC. We can talk about, an all-star break, all-star break, spring training, postseason. There won't be a right one, though. But, Nick, your overall thoughts, I think, though, mainly about ending games early in return, due to the fact, mainly, more than anything else, because guys aren't at full game shape right now here on March 9th.
I mean, I get the run rule, even though like you said before, it's very like little league runish.
I mean, even college baseball is doing it now. It's crazy.
They shouldn't be doing that in college baseball. These guys are freakish athletes.
I can understand it. I can understand it though on a Sunday when it's getaway day and you have to, get to the airport to make your flight, and if the game's going long or if it's a blowout, then that I can see that, but not like
if it's
Friday
also
or
a double
Saturday.
header too. It could
Or
be
a double header,
sometimes.
exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
Now they play more scheduled double headers, which I Major League Baseball went back to that too. I don't know why, but
They should, honestly, if you ask me.
do I love the run rule? No, I don't. But if it means like if the game is literally like 10-0 and or it gets out of hand, it's like 15-0, then just end the game. Because if you're getting mercied like that, you don't deserve to play anymore.
Callan, are they only doing the run rule just for these exhibition before the knockout stage, or the whole entire?
No, I think I went to a playoff game at Petco in 2017, and it was a run rule. I think Venezuela beat somebody like 17-3, and they called the game early. So I think it's even as you get into the actual bracket round of the tournament too.
Okay.
I think they're trying to do it for pacing because you don't want to sit through a 3.5, 4 hour game.
I mean, I'll say this. I'll play kind of double-edged sword with this. I think early on in the tournament, there's just not many countries, unfortunately, that the ones that participate that are just some that aren't great. So you just kind of expect a lot of these type of games that are going to be blowouts. Look at DR. Didn't the DR play Israel today?
They beat them 10-1, but the game went all 9 innings.
Yeah, I mean, but you could definitely see something like that. It's like, all right, we know what's going to happen. Like
U.S. and Brazil.
U.S. Brazil.
Exactly.
Well, that wasn't a 10-run game till the 9th inning, though.
No, but if you looked at the spread of the game, the U.S. was a 9.5 run favorite.
Yeah, but
Right.
they weren't. It was only 8-5 in the 9th inning, though, and then they had a 7-run inning.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, some of the games, you're just like, why even play or play the matchups in some regard? Like,
yeah, like Great Britain and Czechia are like the main two. I was like, okay, like, thanks for showing up, guys, but sorry.
Well, that's what I like to call the participation trophy teams, where they're just like, oh, we're here. We got a spot. We were able to participate. We probably got money from the IOC or whoever's helping to represent this event. And we made off with some money, but we're never going to win.
It's like USA hockey counting against like Latvia.
Right, yeah, Latvia
6-1 or something.
Yeah, or I mean, even like right now with the Paralympic men's team, like they've been beating teams like 15-0, 14-1, 13-0. Declan Farmer, by the way, is one of the greatest of all time in sled hockey. I mean, I think in their 2 games they've outscored the opposition. I want to say 27-1 after 2 games over in Milan Cortina for the Paralympics right now in sled hockey.
But what's the fun of that, though? Like outscoring in 2 games 27-1. Like that, you don't want to embarrass teams. That's not the goal here.
I mean, then again, go ask the women's hockey team who outscored their opponents 34-2 after freaking and win the gold medal in Milan Cortina.
No, and don't get me wrong, it was great. Obviously, because our hockey teams, well, both our hockey teams won for the first time ever at the same time, for crying out loud. And we won on the men's side since the miracle. It's been that long since we've won a gold medal. So I want competitive games. I don't want blowouts, 15, 20 run blowouts. That's not good for TV. That's not good for the fan base that wants to really enhance the sport. Again, I don't understand the event. It doesn't really mean anything to me. I get that it's a country representation thing, but the issue you're having is that more players are interested in playing for the country than they are playing for their team in the majors. That's the problem you got to figure out.
I don't really think it's a problem by saying that wearing the homeland's uniform means more than playing for the Dodgers or the Padres. You know, I mean, yes, that was Kike Hernandez, by the way, folks, who made the comment that Nick was pointing out, though, that there for certain players and sadly for certain countries, it means that much more for them to be on top. You know, not USA, not Canada, you know, not Argentina in soccer, for example. For a lot of these nations, it means that much more for them to go and be able to be on that stage. You know, I think back to 2017 when Puerto Rico played Team USA in the final. They were just coming off of the Hurricane Maria coming through, and how, you know, there was a lot of political tension there with that, and how the team resorted to dyeing their hair blonde, and how that in a way was a cascading effect to uplift the country during a very, you know, tumultuous time. That there is some meaning behind it, though, when it comes to certain players, that it does mean a bit more when it comes to that, though. But Nick, please go ahead.
You're right. From the standpoint of integrity and representing country, yeah, that's totally right. But what does the World Baseball Classic pay you? Nothing. These guys get paid and by major league teams, and they're saying they're more interested in playing on their country team.
I mean, I can understand it this year because there's going to be no baseball for the next 2 to 4 years, probably at this rate.
I understand, but, and by the way, like, if you thought we're going to deal with lockout and strike talk with the WNBA, we're going to be dealing with that. And
I'm also on strike. We're going on strike. I still don't know what strike means, but we're going on a strike.
Yeah.
With Kike Hernandez's comment is his Dodgers just won the World Series the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yet he's saying he, you know, I mean, I guess there's just some guys that are more like, I guess Paul Skeens. I mean, look at Paul Skeens. He's probably has a certain comment because he looks at Pittsburgh and like, well, I can't win here. But
but there's a caveat with Skeens, though. He was at the Air Force Academy before he went to LSU.
Right. And also
there's
Paul
a caveat
Skeens,
there with him. Yes.
Yeah.
But also Paul Skeens hasn't had a chance to make the big money yet as a baseball player either. So
as Ben was saying, though, because he's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But I'm just saying, like, it's not like some of these other guys, like Aaron Judge has a huge contract now with the Yankees. Like him, it's not about money anymore. Or he can say Juan Soto playing for DR or
the Mets.
I mean, no, but I'm just saying, like, playing for, like, he could say, oh, it's not about the money. Yeah, no shit, it's not about the money. You signed an $800 million deal with the Mets.
Cal Raleigh, even with the Mariners.
Yeah. So those guys, they're kind of given an out because they signed a long-term contract in that regard. So to them, they're going to say the money doesn't matter. No, it's not that the money doesn't matter. It's that you're making so much money that it doesn't matter at this point in time. So I don't know. For Skeens, like, I would think he would want to protect himself more, not to get hurt playing in this event so that he actually gets to the contract that he desires.
And we also can confirm, by the way, that there was some discussion, lukewarm discussion of Tarek Skubal making one more appearance for Team USA. That's now out the door per reports gathered earlier on Monday. But Dino, I guess, overall, your thoughts on how the WBC has been played so far, but also ending games early, though, if you reach the mercy rules of the 10 after 5 or 15, or the 15 after 5 or 10 after 7 run rules, though, in the tournament to help protect some players' well-being.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of concerns about player health and avoiding injuries. Obviously the Edwin Diaz injury 3 years ago definitely opened some people's eyes to that, especially if you're a Mets fan like me. But and so I mean, I do think it's a pretty good rule to have in that regard. I mean, it is kind of weird seeing, professional baseball have a mercy rule, but because of the timing of the tournament and people's concerns, then I do agree with the rule in that regard. Plus, like we were saying, in many cases, depending on the matchup, it's, like they're just not going to come back. If it's like Czechia, they're not going to come back from down 10 runs against, Dominican Republic or whoever they're playing. So I do agree with the rule in that regard. And then just in terms of the WBC in general, I mean, I actually kind of like the idea. I mean, there's really no great time to have the tournament. I mean, if you do it after the season, you have all these players who have just gone through a long grueling season, and now you're asking them to play more games. So that's not a great time for it either. And now obviously there's a concern with injuries. So I don't know. I mean, I'm all for players going out and representing their country. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's never going to really be a great solution as to the timing of it. So if players want to go out and represent their country, I'm all for it. And obviously there's some who choose not to because they want to watch their health and play for the team that's actually paying them hundreds of millions of dollars. So I could understand both sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, so far, the tournament's been great so far from what I've been able to watch because Team USA's been playing whenever I've had to work, sadly. So, but I think, the tournament's fine. It is what it is right now because there's no right ways, we've been saying, though, to actually host the tournament, sadly, because of timing and scheduling, fatigue factor settling in. But so far, so good with the WBC here in 2026. All right, gents, we are going to move back to the NFL as, again, free agency has officially opened as of Monday. Nick Morgeson away from the trade of Maxx Crosby. The biggest move made on Monday was who going where in your mind?
Oh, there's so many choices. I mean,
Yeah.
the Jets making the Minka move, I think, was a big move for only a 7th-round pick. He's injured. He's very injured. That's why they only had to trade a 7th-round pick. But I'm trying to think off the top of my head what really. I mean, I would even go back a day, and I would say the DJ Moore trade was a huge trade. Also, the Bears trading him to the Bills. By the way, the Bills have no excuse now to not make a huge run. I said this on ETB, which comes out on Wednesday, that they have to make a Super Bowl now.
Next year.
They have to make the Super Bowl next year. You went out, you got a number one, essentially, wide receiver, so he has another weapon. He's got James Cook. You have Josh Allen. If you don't make a Super Bowl,
what's your excuse after?
There's no excuse. Pagula said he was going to go out and make the moves. He made a move.
Yeah.
And no thanks to Bean, the GM, whatsoever.
You're fired. You're also McDermott, too. So you all said that.
You brought Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator to be the coach because he's got a relationship with Josh Allen. And apparently he's got a relationship with DJ Moore when they were in Carolina with the Panthers. So I think some of the trades were bigger than some of the free agency moves. So I would go there. I think those were the big moves, at least in my opinion.
Ben, I mean, other moves that, because I was getting notified too via ESPN just because it was breaking news and news in general. DJ Moore being traded was one thing. Kenneth Walker going to Kansas City, was, I think, the big move that began the day on Monday. Yep. You had one of the receiver re-sign in Seattle. You had Mike Evans, of course, go to San Francisco. Ben, outside of maybe the Crosby trade, though, biggest move of the day so far for the opening day of free agency was what?
In terms of the actual teams, I think the two teams that had a really good day today were the Raiders. They got Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker. I mean, the Raiders really need a lot of help on defense, and they also got Teron Johnson a couple days ago as well too. So, definitely give credit to the Raiders for sure on that. And then to shore up their offensive line, they brought in one of the best centers on the market. And that was Tyler Linderbaum, to play center for them. And I said this on Gurus actually yesterday, and hopefully you guys get the chance to watch it for the people that are watching. That watch out for the Raiders to spend big for their new guy, Fernando Mendoza, because they have all these pieces coming up. And I wouldn't be shocked if they, put it back to Linderbaum and look what happens. So them and then the Panthers. How about the Carolina Panthers? A team that made the playoffs this past year, and they decided to continue to build on their defense. Yes, they had a massive overpay for Jalen Phillips. I mean, $80 million guarantee, that's a little much. However, to be able to pry him away from Philly with Howie Roseman there, I think was absolutely crazy in itself. And then they also brought in Devin Lloyd, who I really wanted for my Pats at linebacker. And he's going to be playing linebacker for them too. So I think two teams that really needed defensive help got some defensive help today, the Raiders and the Panthers. I think the Mike Evans move definitely was very interesting, Callan, to say the least, because he's a long-term buck. And I thought that there's a lot of players that you look at, like, I can't really imagine, this player being somewhere else. And that's what I thought was Mike Evans being in Tampa. I saw him play quite a bit in Tampa. And they loved him down there. So I think also, too, Chris Godwin got paid. They got, Abuka and stuff like that. So they'll probably have somebody else maybe next couple of days. But the Niners, and Nick probably going to agree with this, the Niners really needed a lot of help at receiver, in the last couple of years, like an outside threat. And they finally have it, I think, with Mike Evans. Hopefully he stays healthy, knock on wood, because he could definitely game change a lot, especially when they have McCaffrey and they have Kittle. They have all these guys there. So
they can't stay healthy, though.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then another thing, too, really quickly, before we go to Dino, is the Rams adding some secondary help, because their secondary was brutal, especially in the playoffs against the Seahawks. They brought in Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs, which was big, and they brought in Jalen Watson as well from the Chiefs. So the two starting cornerbacks for the Rams coming up will be from Kansas City Chiefs, which I think you're doing pretty well if you're doing that. So, it's just stuff all over the place. But I'd say Jalen Phillips and Lloyd to the Raiders. Jalen Phillips and Walker to the Raiders. Lloyd and Phillips to the Panthers. Evans to the Niners, and then these moves that the Rams made.
Dino, so much to unpack, though, for NFL fans out there. What moves sticks out in your mind, though, from day one?
I would say the biggest move was probably that Trent McDuffie trade, actually, because there's no doubt, like, if there's one area the Rams needed to improve on, it was the secondary, and they got one of the best corners out there in McDuffie. So that definitely improved. And actually, I'm an odds guy. From an odds perspective, they actually became the Super Bowl favorites after that move was made. So they are currently the Super Bowl favorites after that move. Certainly the biggest headline probably from today itself was the Kenneth Walker going to the Chiefs. They definitely need more offensive playmakers on that offense. So he could probably provide that for them. I'm not sure if it improves them drastically, but it is definitely they definitely needed a splashier playmaker on that offense, and he can potentially provide that for them. And there's no doubt that they'll be back next year. I think I think they just had an off year. Stuff just didn't go right for them. I feel like they're definitely still in their dynasty mode. They got Mahomes. As long as Mahomes and Reed are there together, I feel like they're going to continue their dynasty.
And another thing too, Dino, is they also brought back Eric Bieniemy, who kind of helped during the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely big too.
Yep.
Yeah, other moves. Evans going to the Niners. Yeah, I really thought he was going to be a Buck for life. So I'm kind of surprised that he switched teams. Can he help them? I mean, obviously their biggest thing isn't really missing talent. They have plenty of talent on that team. It's just a matter of staying healthy. So I don't know if really bringing in a guy who's towards the tail end of his career is going to help.
Well, I do think they're probably going to lose Jawan Jennings, who's one of their key receivers due to free agency. So they probably wanted to bring in Evans as kind of a replacement potentially, maybe even a better one. But yeah, he obviously has injury risk.
This is only day one, and this is only just day one. There's going to be more chaos that ensues, though. But Dino, please continue.
No, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I would say best move overall so far is that McDuffie trade for the Rams, because they shored up the one area that they were lacking in. There's no doubt, like, their offense is great as long as Stafford is still Stafford. So yeah, that's the main.
I forgot one more too that I forgot to mention, Callan. Michael Pittman Jr. got traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was kind of a very underrated move as well. The Colts, obviously, Alec Pierce, of course, the bigger guy, the receiver in the market, pretty much was off within the first 2 minutes of the legal tampering period. And then they decided to move on from their wide receiver 2 and Michael Pittman. And now I guess to be with DK Metcalf, which I think should be very, very interesting.
It will be interesting. And again, this was just day one, and it was pretty chaotic for the NFL fan base out there, your lead host not included, though. But, every other, 30 minutes, so, there was some other new trade being announced or move being announced by either ESPN or Underdog today. So only day one, though, and a lot of moves are already in place, though, and some teams already rebuilding, and maybe some teams looking for better or worse already after one day of free agency. Gentlemen, we now sit 6 days away from Selection Sunday coming up next week on March 15th. Per ESPN's Joe Lunardi, your number one seeds right now would be Florida, Arizona, Duke, and Michigan. That would be Duke as your number one overall seed, with Michigan also being number one, followed up by Florida and Arizona. Nick Morgeson, out of the 4 number one seeds, who in your mind, though, is most at fault perhaps of maybe a potential early round exit perhaps and not getting to the Final Four?
Oh, man. That's tough. I mean, I don't know. I find it hard to argue with seedings because of how the process is figured out and how it's done. You could argue any of these teams are good enough to advance. Again, college basketball is not fully my sport, so I don't know it well. I know the teams, but what was the question? Did you say the one that would most get eliminated? Or
yeah, which number one seed probably maybe stubs their toe? Just for those wondering, Duke is number one overall, 29-2 record, 17-1 in conference play. Michigan's 29-2 as well. They've won 2 more games in Big Ten play. Florida's 25-6. They're also a 1 seed, and also Arizona is 29-2. So those are the projected 4 seeds for number one right now.
Well, Florida just got it, right? So they weren't a number one really most of the year. Like the other teams were really 1 seeds most of the year. So I would say maybe Arizona, maybe just based off a track record, because UConn, they're going to be 1. Florida, I think they're a good team. They just, the rankings, the records, again, were keeping them from being number 1. So I would probably say Arizona.
Ben, I think Arizona might be a good suggestion for who might perhaps stub their toe along the way, because in Lunardi's bracket right now in the West region, for one, right now it'd be Arizona playing Nick's alma mater in round 1 from Viejas Arena in San Diego. But then that 2 seed right now, Nick, belongs to Zan Bando's Illinois Fighting Illini. So again, Ben, your overall thoughts out of the 4 projected number 1 seeds right now, again, that's Duke, Michigan, Florida, and Arizona. Which number 1 right now projectedly is at this rate the most vulnerable entering March Madness?
I'm going to go Duke. I think Duke does not – they obviously rely on Boozer, as the main guy. But it's about, what's their secondary guys? How can they produce? They obviously have a lot there. I think, Arizona, I think, is a really good one from Nick. I think that the thing about Arizona, the thing about a lot of these, number one seeds is their coaching staff. And I think, Duke obviously has a very, very good coaching staff as well, with John Shire there. But I'm just worried about their defense in terms of like their rebounding. When you play in March Madness, a lot comes down to executing defensively, getting rebounds, second chance points. And I don't know. I mean, Arizona has definitely been a little bit vulnerable recently. My UConn Huskies obviously played them around the season. We lost like 4 or 5 to them at Gamble. The first time losing at Gamble in a long period of time. That was a really tough one. Michigan is very, very deep. Really, really good shooting team. Arizona is obviously headlined by Bradley and Pete over there as well. I'll probably go Duke, though, because I think, as great as Boozer is, can other guys be able to kind of lead with him as well?
I think that Ben might be onto a valid point, though, that Duke has been a one-man show this whole year with Boozer's son playing there. Like, who is guy 2, guy 3, guy 5? Where I think, though, as they get through the tournament, though, Dino, I begin to wonder, though, how many teams begin to change their defense to clamp down on Boozer, to force the other players on the floor to start making shots and become factors where it's not just Boozer running the whole show. So I think that Ben's onto a good point, though. But, Dino, out of those 4 predicted number 1 seeds, most vulnerable entering March Madness in your mind is who?
Yeah. No, I mean, Ben does make a good point there where you do obviously need another guy to produce for you. But right now, Duke is playing some really clamped down defense as well. So, if they continue to play that kind of defense, they're going to be very tough to beat. So out of those 4, I would probably go Arizona as the most vulnerable. They've probably, I don't have a stat to back this up, but I'm going to say they've probably had the weakest strength of schedule out of those 4. I don't know if that's correct or not, but right now, Florida seems like they're getting hot at the right time, which is what they did last year as well, on their way to the national championship. So if, you never know, they could potentially repeat if they're getting hot at the right time. Duke, like I said, they're playing really great defense. And Michigan, obviously, being in the Big Ten, has had very tough competition all year. So I think they're definitely going to probably make – I feel like if I had to pick one that's the most vulnerable out of those 4, it's got to be Arizona.
I feel like Arizona might also be that team just for the fact of, sadly, I think the conference affiliation, I think, is what we're kind of also getting lost, like maybe getting lost.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, they're probably out of the 4 conferences, they're in the weakest one out of those 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Big 12 is still a good conference, but you're not on the same pegging as the Big 10 or SEC or even the ACC for that matter, if you ask me.
But why does the conference matter? Again, I'm going to go to like college football argument again, all over again. Why does it matter what conference you're in?
Because there's certain conferences that are stronger in one sport and not all of them or one of them.
But again, why do we have a win-loss schedule if we're going to care about strength of schedule? We might as well just say, I won this game, I won this game, I lost this game, I lost this game. The records mean nothing. They mean nothing in college football. They mean nothing in college basketball. Why do we have records? If a team goes undefeated, what's the point of them going undefeated if they're not going to be a 1 seed?
That's for the committee to talk about, sadly.
Miami, Ohio, undefeated. Yeah. They're not going to be a 1 seed.
It's interesting. I was reading an article over the weekend that said that if Miami of Ohio were to lose just 1 game, they could potentially be out of the tournament.
Which would be wild.
I actually agree. I mean, I feel like if you're undefeated, you deserve to be a ranked team because
hence why they want to expand
the win all these games.
Hence why they want to expand the tournament field, Morganson, for that exact reason.
No, but that shouldn't be the reason why they expand the field. I don't want an expanded field. 60, what is it? 67 teams?
68.
68.
Yeah, that's enough. I mean,
It's
you don't need
enough.
to expand it more.
They were talking about going to 96.
That's too much.
If you go to 96, you're going to end up like with Division 2 and Division 3 schools
Yeah,
in the tournament, and it's going to look like high school or middle school basketball on national television. But
it's fine the way it is. It really is.
No, but both of you guys, Ben, Dino, what is the point of having a win-loss record in college football or college basketball that if you have a better record, that it doesn't matter?
Well, that's the thing though. There's so many teams. It's not like in professional sports where everybody plays each other at least once or twice or three times. It's a case where you can't play, like, you just, obviously early in the season you do play a few out of conference games, and the better teams play other good teams from other conferences. And actually, a lot of people don't realize that the committee does take those into strong account when they're making their selections. Despite
it's stupid. It's stupid the way it goes, Nick. But at least in college basketball, I don't know if you've ever heard of what Quad 1, Quad 2, and Quad 3 means.
Yeah,
so that's exactly,
as Will talked about too at one point.
That's exactly how they do it. In which, say Arizona beat Kansas, which I think happened. I'm not terribly sure.
I think they split with Kansas this year, I think, if memory serves.
That would be classified as like a Quad 1 type of win. However, if there was a team that was kind of around them that didn't have a certain type of Quad 1 that maybe the other team might have had, they obviously put that into account. As dumb as it is.
But what's the incentive of winning is my point. Why do we show up every single week to win a game if we're going to get shut out because our schedule's not worth it? If you ever heard the theory?
If you lose to a bad team, that hurts you too, though. You can't just not show up against the bad team, because that's going to hurt your ranking as well. If you lose to a team has a losing record, that's going to hurt your ranking, obviously.
But you also play too.
No, but I'm just saying, like, there's no point of having a win-loss record, because they're not judging it on records.
You're saying we just shouldn't track like how many wins or losses they have?
Yeah. No, I'm serious, because what's the point? Because you could be an undefeated team and you're not a ranked team, possibly.
And for those who are wondering, by the way, Lenardi does have Miami, Ohio in his bracket as an 11 seed to play North Carolina and Philadelphia.
An 11 seed
for an undefeated.
For an undefeated team, an 11 seed, because they got to play big bad UNC in the projected bracket right now.
Who cares?
What's UNC's
team? They're an undefeated team, and they're going to be an 11 seed. How?
And 11 seeds are usually the ones that are like one of the last ones to make it in, right?
Yeah. What do they call that? The last four or whatever.
The
they
first
I mean, look at this. I mean, to be fair, like,
if they win their conference, they don't have to play in the first four. The people,
they're
teams that win their conference,
and they're not projected to be in the first four right now. For those who are curious, in that half of the bracket.
But have you ever heard a scenario in any sport where you win every single game, which is the goal you're supposed to have every year, to win as many games? Callan and I have had this argument. Nick D and I have had this argument many times, and he doesn't understand what I'm saying. We as athletes, or if you've ever been an athlete before on a team, Callan, you know this, being on many teams, that what is the goal we have every year going into being on a team? What's the goal?
You play to win the game.
Thank you, Herm Edwards. But my point is, you're supposed to win as many games as you possibly can. That is the goal. That is what you're supposed to do. And the stupid ranking system defeats the purpose of winning games. It does.
And it's only in college. It's nowhere else. It's just in college football, basketball, soccer, volleyball, you name it.
And the other thing I don't get too is why they schedule these dopey games, or what I like to call the money games, because to play these low-ranked opponents.
I feel like maybe a solution to that could be where instead of like the conferences we currently have, actually, like, so you know how they have like these quad 1, quad 2, quad 3.
Oh,
Maybe have a conference of just quad 1 and a conference of just quad 2. And then
That would further complicate things if you ask me.
hey,
I'll give you another solution. You play in conference until the tournament comes.
Callan, we got breaking news coming out of free agency. Is that okay? Regarding my Patriots, the Patriots are signing former Jets guard Elijah Vera Tucker per the insiders. A big offensive line addition. Love it.
Wow.
Yep. I don't know the details. I'll pull it out.
Everyone's leaving Morgeson's Jets.
It's okay.
They had a good day, Nick. I'll give you that. The Jets did have a good day, but I did like that.
I like the Fitzpatrick move, but what was I saying? Oh, so I'm just tired of that. We win as many games as we possibly can in college, but it doesn't mean anything because the conference is weaker than the other conferences, so they're not allowed to be a ranked team. I just play conference, literally play conference until the tournament comes up. Then you wouldn't have this issue.
You could, but then there's there's other factors that you do have to take in consideration because if you come out of the gate though in November playing conference teams, then that from my perspective, it makes no sense because you need to
actually just make things worse. Because then again,
you need to be able to play. Sadly, as much as we don't like the Division II team playing the D1 team for the first game of the year because they have to get some money in their back pocket because they lose their players to the portal and transferring out or whatnot. You need those games to at least get the team chemistry underneath your feet. I know that sounds stupid, but 9 years in Division I athletics, that really you need to be able to play those because. If you're going to be playing conference teams all the way from November till March, I don't really see the clear path forward here.
Yeah, but wouldn't that make it fair? So then you wouldn't have to say, "Oh, this division is stronger than this one." So if they have 2 losses, did you see the amount of bitching that was done when Notre Dame got eliminated from the college football playoff?
No, that's their own damn fault for not wanting to join a conference.
No, but I'm saying people were bitching and saying that Notre Dame should have gotten into the playoffs. Tell me how a team that has more losses, in theory, should get in over someone who has no losses.
Not just that, they already had lost to Miami head-to-head, so that right there cancels out the records.
But forget the head-to-head. I see, this is the thing that's frustrating me. I don't care about the
head-to-head.
But
if Notre Dame joins the ACC, and if the argument's going to be, well, the record is this, the head-to-head tiebreaker goes to Miami, sadly.
Right, because technically
I do feel like a head-to-head is actually
that's literally what it came down to.
That's literally the best tiebreaker you could have. Actually, is okay if this team beat that team deserves to be in over the other team that they beat.
And plus, though, too, if you were to go and I'm not saying that the idea is bad, but just thinking from my perspective, though, of where my conference is at right now, once we lose Gonzaga next year, I don't want to sit through watching USD play Gonzaga men's women's basketball every other weekend and we get beat by 50. There's just no.
But that's not the theory I'm going with, though. I'm saying the theory I'm going with is if you play conference, then you don't have to have a committee that votes and has bias.
That part I understand. But then where are you going to get the rest of your teams from if you can't fulfill all 68 teams? Because you only get X amount of conference.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they should play conference so that there's no discrepancy over a vote over who's.
I think that might work better for football, but for a longer season schedule away from college football, I don't see that being a clear path forward, sadly.
I don't know. I just can't stand when they play these ridiculous games and they're making money. They do this in the college basketball too. They play these ridiculous money games. And you're just like,
I already sat through a 95-27 game where the team had to play 5-on-4 because they had a flu bug going around their team. For heaven's sakes,
I want a rule in play that you can't.
They wouldn't just forfeit in that case.
They should have, if you ask me, honestly. But
the way I'll end this is, I want a rule in place that you can't play money games anymore. I want that out But also, at the end of the day, though, you would lose the magic of App State beating Michigan, for example. And people actually, Nick, live for that sort of thing, believe it or not, like myself, Mr. Mid-major over here. But how often does that happen?
Even if it doesn't happen often, though, again, with where we are, as somebody at a mid-major university who just had their men's basketball coach get canned 3 weeks ago, the roster's going to be turned over again because of Lavin being gone. You need to be able to play a San Diego State, play a UCSD who has the money coming in from the alumni and boosters, tuition, you name it, to be able to keep your programs alive. Because if you don't, you're going to be having more schools like Cal Baptist who cut very successful non-revenue generating sports like wrestling at CBU because we don't have football. Oh, it's all about football. That goes to my longstanding dying on the hill moment that it's not always about college football, because other successful programs have died in this day and age of where we're at in college athletics because of where funding has not been coming from.
Well, no, I agree with that I think schools are obsessive over football to fund their schools. That's a huge issue. And I think that's a shame on the schools because they don't do enough to promote those sports or put money into those sports. But if they didn't have football, that's where a lot of the money is being generated, because that's where most of the NIL collective money is going to, unfortunately.
Exactly. And my school is known for volleyball, men's soccer, and baseball. Those are the three sports that really keep us going away from men's basketball and 1AA football. And, we don't really get a lot of people to come to the games, though. But when they do come, they're loud, they're vocal, because the team's really good. In our volleyball program has been stellar. We're finally adding a beach program here, after all these years. But, I mean, we can throw so many different things, guys, for college football, college basketball. Again, like I will also say, Nick knows this too, there's never going to be a proper system that is going to that we're all going to agree upon for football, for basketball, baseball. It doesn't matter because of what we think, because there's never going to be the proper system. We can expand this all the way out to cover every D1 university out there who gets in with a shit record. It won't, and it's still not going to make people happy.
But don't make it 96 schools. I couldn't bear that.
No, we'll get it in 5 years, and we'll be calling games. So there you go.
Great.
So Nick and I can relive our college days of doing college hoops.
They're going to need enough announcers at that point.
Exactly. Nick, we'll go to you for the next one here regarding UFC 326. Oliveira facing off with Max Holloway, round two, I should say, or fight two, I should say, from T-Mobile this past weekend.
The rematch.
Oliveira wins on the scorecards, 50-45 over Max Holloway at UFC 326. Nick, does Oliveira's win, though, mean that he gets the winner of Makhachev Arman, or is he destined to perhaps be the gatekeeper to the stars forever at this rate? From what you saw, though, from Saturday, your overall stance on UFC 326?
Well, Holloway was the favorite. He was the one going in as the overall favorite for this dopey BMF title belt that they have, which is not even a real title belt. But I would say Oliveira.
Is he really a bad mofo? I don't think so.
No. Oliveira was not supposed to win this fight. He came out and totally took down Max Holloway. This is even the big. The UFC 326 card was abysmal. Like, Zan and Tom and Jack from Outsiders, I think, gave it like a D-. I think they gave the card because the fights were awful. And then most of the attention went towards the White House card, which they announced, and that whole situation, which, again, abysmal. They totally screwed that up. But I would say that it was a dominant performance by Oliveira. I wouldn't say he's a gatekeeper because he's been around a long time. He's more a veteran than he is a star right now. Currently, Holloway is more the star name right now. He just happened to lose to Oliveira, but they ran this fight, I think, like 11 or 12 years ago was the last time they fought, and they were supposed to run it like 5 or 6 years ago, and Oliveira got hurt, and that's why the fight didn't happen until now. So I would just tick this off as just, all right, BMF title means nothing. It's not a real belt. It's not a real title. And the winner will probably get Makhachev, who didn't end up going on the White House card. That ended up being Taparia Gaethje as the main event for the White House card, which originally was going to be Taparia Makhachev, which would have been the number 1 versus the number 2 seeded fighter in the UFC. So I would just say this is par for the course. I wouldn't say it's a gatekeep or destined for another fight.
Nick, so far, obviously I'm not really big into UFC, but I mean, my dad watches it occasionally. And I think now with it being on CBS and Paramount Plus, it's a bit more accessible. I think now it's supposed to be behind the ESPN double paywall.
Well, not anymore.
How would you probably assess where UFC has gone so far in the first, I'd say, 2 cards that they've had on Paramount/CBS?
So, well, they started the year with 2 numbered cards back to back with 324 and 325. And then they just had the 3rd numbered card, obviously, this past weekend, 326. Again, I'm going more off the track record of what our Outsiders hosts say. But they didn't think the cards were that great, to be honest. I think they could have done better. I think they were so worried about this White House card, or what they're calling UFC Freedom 250, which is not even a numbered card. And they botched that completely. Dana White is completely out of the loop. He's not really doing it well at all.
Bone broth, damn it.
Ugh. Yes, you're referring to the reference I made in the last show. But I don't know. Dana's kind of checked out due to Zuffa Boxing, which is his other promotion that he's running right now.
That name makes me laugh. I'm sorry.
I think it has to do with it means something. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's promoting a loofah company for you to use in the shower.
I know, right?
Loofah.
But the way they broke the news for the White House card, like in the middle of UFC 326, made no sense. Let's see. The White House card was distracting. Well, the White House card hasn't happened yet, unless you mean UFC 326.
Or is she just mentioning, as you were saying, though, Nick, that all the announcements, though, have been, may have been a distraction or a sidebar.
Yes,
during the course of the card on Saturday.
It was distracting because of the way they announced it, like right in the middle of the card, which made no sense.
That's not right. That's not right.
Because like Dana was talking to Joe Rogan, I think, and then like the announcement just came out of the blue. But I don't know. UFC's got some work to do. It's easier for the fans because now you only have to get to Paramount Plus if you want to watch it. It's not a double paywall to watch the UFC anymore.
Yeah.
So you just need one. You pay once, and then you can watch all the cards. And what's going to be hopefully going to make it more expansive on TV is you're going to some of the UFC 326 card was on CBS local affiliates the other night. Now, it wasn't the best part of the card. It was like the first couple fights of the main card, which no one really cares about. If they were smart, they would have put the main event on CBS, at least for one of the first couple cards, so people could really get into the fight game.
Instead, people get stuck with all the fluff, it sounds like.
Yeah. And it would have been nice because then you could have promoted, hey, you want to watch the rest of the cards for the year? Go get Paramount Plus if you're a fan of this on CBS.
I feel like ESPN used to do that where they would put like the preliminary fights on ESPN, and
then you had to pay for the actual main card after.
You had to subscribe to ESPN plus play and the extra pay-per-view fee, right?
So
plus shipping and handling.
So most
for real.
So most preliminaries were on ESPN regular, always. And I think that was to try to gain incentive from the fans. But if you have no main event cards whatsoever shown on TV, what's your incentive to go buy ESPN Plus at all to watch the fights? And it used to crash all the time. Tom used to tell me that it crashed constantly.
Oh, so Netflix isn't alone when it comes to crashing during a big event.
Oh, ESPN Plus was worse. Like, he said he would get like rainbow bars and rainbow death wheels and all this stuff constantly during.
Please stand by.
He showed me too, and I'm like, oh shit! And like this was like $70 or $80 a month or something. It was expensive.
Paying a lot of money for a shit product.
So I think Dana finally got fed up with ESPN because ESPN kept moving the times around. Sometimes for the fights, or when they used to air Contender Series, or the Ultimate Fighter, which is coming back on Paramount Plus, and we are going to have a series called Tough Enough, which is about the Ultimate Fighter, which did really well for us last time around. But that's now going to live on Paramount Plus, which means it's not going to live on a TV schedule, so to speak. So they can release that whenever they want. And same thing for the cards for Paramount Plus. They can pick whatever time they want because they're not on an ESPN built-in schedule, so to speak. So it makes it easier from a business perspective. But they need to have the fights that people want to watch. That's the problem they're having currently. Like, I'll pull up the White House card again, and I'll just because I went over this on episode 308 of ETB, but the fight card is abysmal, except for the top two fights. So they got Topuria Gaethje, which Gaethje was coming off the win of Paddy Pimblett. Topuria was coming off. Was he the one who was having the divorce issues? I think,
believe so.
Because I think he was on hold until he got his situation figured out. Alex Pereira's been around for a long time. He went to heavyweight. Now, there was rumors it was going to be Pereira-John Jones, and John Jones has been going through all the hell and nightmares he's been causing as of late.
And even a report from ESPN today that he is asking to be released again from UFC.
Well, he's not going to fight ever again for the UFC, so it might be in the best interest of the UFC to let him go.
Zuffa boxing.
He's not going to box. And then, like, just some other names. O'Malley, Sean O'Malley, I really like. He's the one with the crazy rainbow hair.
Baby.
Yes. I like him. I think he's a great fighter. He's going to wipe the floor of his opponent. Sean
Strickland.
Well, no, Strickland didn't make the card. And then you have Michael Chandler, which, if you know, like, it was supposed to be the whole McGregor versus Chandler. McGregor's not on this card. That was a massive failure on the part of the UFC. Now, there's no pay-per-view attached, so there was really no extra incentive for McGregor to earn pay-per-view points because they went away from the pay-per-view system when they left ESPN Plus and ESPN to go to Paramount because they didn't need a pay-per-view system anymore. But I don't know. Mauricio Ruffy is going to be a tough opponent for Chandler. And then Diego Lopez, who I really like. I met Diego Lopez at Fanatics Fest, actually, in New York. Nice guy, one of the nicest guys in the UFC. I think Zan was telling me earlier today that he thinks, and that's the first fight on the card for the main event, Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. He thinks that's going to be the best fight on the card, which is a little scary that usually the first fight is not supposed to be the best fight on the card, but they screwed up. They don't have McGregor. They don't have John Jones, which in the long run, they probably dodged a bullet not putting John Jones on there, to be honest, because the guy's a headache. But no Jones, no McGregor, no Makhachev, and they don't have a women's fight on here, which I think they kind of screwed up on that part too, not having like a Kayla Harrison, Amanda Nunes fight, but there was rumors that Kayla Harrison is now hurt. So will it do ratings? Yeah, it'll do ratings. Because the fun part is they're actually literally going to walk. The entrance is going to be the Oval Office. They're going to walk in from the Oval Office of the White House into the Octagon, which I don't know how they pulled that off legally.
The chief, like every time someone walks out of there, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, but I don't know how they legally are pulling that one off, walking from the Oval Office into the Octagon.
Sounds like a security concern. But
well, I'll give you another number, Callan, from a nerdy media perspective. They're going to lose $60 million on this. What? They are literally funding this by themselves. They're not. So they're taking a $60 million hit because they want to control everything that's involved.
Wow.
That's why I'm saying not having McGregor, not having Makhachev, not having Jones, not having
any big names just seems like it spells disaster here.
Except for the top two fights, which is where a lot of the watch is going to come in. But again, there's really it's not an ad revenue generator because it's you pay for it on a paywall. So it's a matter of getting subs. That's what they really got to figure out. But they over promoted this It was supposed to be one of the biggest fight cards of all time. Historically, they were going to have 6 huge title fights, and it just did not work out.
And it's become a bust in a matter of a couple of days.
I mean, Zan said to me for the diehards, it's not a bad card. But for someone like me who's trying to get into it.
For the casual audience, those trying to get into it, those who watch it here and there, it doesn't sound promising.
Yeah, I mean, will I watch it? Yeah, we'll watch it. Are we gonna, since the White House card is a huge thing, we'll have a pre and a post fight show for it, obviously, but it doesn't have the same juice that it was gonna supposedly have. I'm telling you, McGregor Chandler would have been huge. It would have been a huge fight. Zan had the chance to talk to Chandler about it on his show, and of course Chandler was tongue-in-cheeking it the whole time, every time he kept asking about Conor. But what do I know?
Yeah. All right, guys, we're a little spring cleaning. We're going to try a different segment here where we would have bench confessionals. We're going to try to settle the bill. So I'm going to present you guys 3 big trades, signings, or cuts on the tab for the night from the last day or two. We have to decide if the team in question made a smart investment or if they over-tipped or if they're overpaying or overreacting. Our 3 options, guys, are the Ravens for the 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby, the Texans giving $40 million for 1 year of Danielle Hunter, and the Lions cutting Taylor Decker for $11.6 million in cap space. Nick Morgeson, looking at these 3 charges on the table, which team or are these teams making a smart investment to win now or over-tipping for a service they don't really need regarding the Ravens, Texans, or Lions?
I would say that the Ravens overpaid for Maxx Crosby because, again, like I said before, I don't think that's their issue. I think the offense is their issue. They got to get Lamar healthy again. They got to get they need wide receivers. Their defense is fine. It's going to improve their defense. I'm not debating that with people. But I would say they overpaid, and I think other teams could have used him way more. Like, this is going to sound ridiculous because we have 3 fans from this team. I actually think he would have been better in a Bears uniform than he would have been in a Ravens uniform, to be honest. I think he was a better fit there, I think, to be honest. I'm trying to think. The Chiefs would have been a great team for Maxx Crosby, I think. I don't know about the Ravens.
Trading him in division, though.
Trading in division, though?
What about, Nick, what about the Packers?
Oh, to go along with Micah Parsons?
They already gave up so much for Parsons.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Well, if they did that, that would have been unreal. If they somehow got Maxx Crosby and Micah Parsons and
Bills.
I mean,
they really need edge help badly.
They haven't sacrificed a lot of draft capital, really. No. Actually, you know what, Ben? That's actually not a bad fit. Maybe the Bills.
I would have hated it, but I think it makes a lot of sense
because their defense struggled in the playoffs.
By the way, why am I the one bringing this up? The acquisition of DJ Moore for the Bills. Well, actually not. I had my team screwed up though, but I forgot though. But Stephon Diggs was playing for New England last season. I know he was with Buffalo though at the same. Was with Buffalo though. But I was going to say, what if that move was done to fill his void though? But obviously he was in New England at one point. But we do have a very interesting take from our new guy, Nate Miller, who says they owe Decker $39 million over the next 2 years just for him to not play. Lions are in a real tight spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Lions are in a tough situation just because of their coaching situation. Yeah. On top of making that trade with the Texans, by the way, which, again, I still don't understand what that trade accomplished.
A 3 running back room is interesting.
Well, it's not going to be a 3 running back room.
They released Mixon, so...
Oh, yeah, that's right. They did release Mixon. So, but again, it didn't make sense at the time that they had 3 running backs and you're trading away a defensive lineman just to make these moves. Like, it didn't add up. But I would say the Crosby one, they overpaid because he's been injured too. People forget that, by the way. So you're in the NFL, first round picks are like gold currency to teams. So to trade 2 of them, that's a lot.
I also think you would have been fun in Tampa Bay.
yeah, because they're more of a barn burner offense, so them having more defensive help might make sense. Actually, because Baker Mayfield throws a lot of interceptions, so maybe they need more defensive help to hold field position.
They got
maybe.
a coach too who loves to blitz. Todd Bowles,
Oh, well, yeah, I know Todd Bowles a little too well.
I'm not saying he's great, but I think it'd be awesome.
Him though, sadly, Aaron Glenn falls asleep at the combine though. It's the only.
No, please, can we not go there, please?
That and dancing to Earth, Wind, and Fire when they return a punt back for a touchdown and they lose the game.
Oh no!
All right, are you just gonna keep twisting the?
Yeah.
I know the NFL can kick my ass. So there you go. I just happen to see viral clips and I read box scores. That's how I know about NFL football because they chose to leave San Diego. Ben, how about your thoughts here? Again, those on the bill again, the Ravens 2 first-rounders for Crosby. Texans giving $40 million for Danielle Hunter or Taylor Decker being cut by Detroit to save $11.6 million in cap space. Your thoughts?
I like you're saying in terms of smart financial as well?
Yeah, who was smart and maybe who overpaid here? What out of the three, what do you think?
Oof. I feel like Hunter for the Texans was smart business for them because he is with Anderson, that basically makes their pass rush. I mean, those two guys are vaunted. And not saying that, their defense would have taken a massive dip if he left, but, he's a really good part in their system. And, obviously it's a little much, but I think it worked well. Decker for the Lions. I mean, I don't really know what the Lions are doing. I mean, I thought personally, that they were trying to retool a little bit. They obviously they moved on from Montgomery, but their offensive line, Frank Ragnow obviously was retired last year. He came back, but they've had a lot of moving pieces. But I do think the move for Hunter was good business than not.
Without a doubt. Dino, who do you think here maybe overpaid or is getting some smart return on their investment again? Baltimore, Houston, or Detroit? Who do you think?
Yeah, the one that probably isn't a great move is the Lions dropping Decker. I mean, if our guy Nate Miller just said, they owe him $39 million over the next 2 years to not play for them. That doesn't really make any financial sense. Not to mention, offensive line is always one of the key things you want to build on. So dropping him doesn't make too much sense in my opinion. He's saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Decker requested a release. I don't know if that's true, but if that's the case, then maybe that's why. But
yeah, he put out a tweet saying something about it.
Interesting.
It does. There's an ESPN story from 3 days ago that Decker asked for a release after 10 years with the Lions. So he's right.
Okay, so that's that changes things a little bit, I guess. They could have tried to trade him. I don't know, but no, I mean, with the Ravens, 2 first-round pick. I mean, draft picks in the NFL do mean a lot because they start right away, and especially first-round picks. They become automatic starters in the league. So, yes, draft picks do mean a lot in the NFL. Giving up 2 first-rounders is definitely nothing to sneeze at. But like I said earlier, I feel like the Ravens are in a very much win-now mode before the window on Lamar Jackson closes. Because, he's gone through a lot of injuries in his career. That window is quickly closing, so they want to take advantage while they still can.
I think they have to.
So yeah, you could argue that they overpaid a little bit, but I feel like they're just in such a win now mode that they just had to do whatever it took to get the deal done. And then Danielle Hunter with the Texans. they had one of the best defenses in the league last year, and they just wanted to make sure that they continued that by keeping one of their best players. So I like that deal for them. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, out of the three, I mean, I think you guys probably are right. Again, I just based off what I've been hearing, though. I think any draft pick cough up is always something, but when it's a first rounder, though, and when it's a sport like the NFL, where again, as you guys are saying, though, that those are like finding gold, that those could, alter the franchise one way or another. That definitely might be a bit of an overreach, though, for Baltimore. Where again, as Nick said, though, to his point, though, which I thought was great, though, your defense isn't the problem. Fix your receiving core is what I think we're all getting at here in some roundabout way.
And Lamar get healthy.
And Lamar get healthy, too, would also be very nice, though, too, for Baltimore fans. All right, Nick, are you ready?
On strike. We're going on strike. I still don't know what strike means, but we're going on a strike.
Day number 160 following the WNBA lockout. Yes, we're at day 160 of following this malarkey and bullcrap going on in the WNBA. Of course, though, fellas, tomorrow marks the pivotal turning point of a potential WNBA player strike, as the lockout has again reached day 160 after the opening salvo being fired by Nafisa Collier back in late September. Nick Morgeson, we are hoping to have the show tomorrow to fulfill the quota with where things are at right now. But I think, though, Nick, what is getting lost here a little bit, we have, though, seen the players getting a little bit more vocal over these last couple of days, though. We've heard about some tense meetings between the Players Association internally, like a mini civil war in a way. Still no budging from either side. We've heard about counter proposals. We've heard, differing opinions, though, from players across the table, though. But Nick, the inevitable is coming here in about 24 hours. It looks like at this rate.
I mean, the way I would sum it up is it's a giant circus what's going on between the WNBA and the WNBPA currently, because they can't agree on revenue share percentages. But this is like any other sport. We saw Major League Baseball go through a lockout because they couldn't agree to revenue share percentage, and that was the first time they tried to fight for a salary cap, which, again, is probably going to cause a 1 to 2 year lockout this time around because they're never going to agree to a salary cap. I mean, you want my 2 cents on it? I think they should put a salary floor, not a salary cap, in to force the owners to spend money. That way, it forces the owners to actually make their teams better, a la Pittsburgh, a la the Sacramento, Ocramento A's, whatever you want to call them.
A's.
Whatever you want to call them at this.
The Ocramento A's of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So I think the owners need to be held accountable, well, in that situation. But for the W, the owners are acting like they're the ones that make the money for the league. Last time I checked, you need players and you need brands to make money for a league. Otherwise, it's not successful. Rob Manfred saying that Shohei Ohtani shouldn't have been on the cover of the MLB The Show game, which made no sense whatsoever. If they didn't have Shohei, where would they be right now?
Yeah.
Shohei has done things that, they're calling him the Japanese Babe Ruth, which I think is a little too soon to be using that phrasing. But
you can make an argument, though, like he could be on a trajectory. Not saying, obviously, to say it now, but if there's ever going to be a player, at least in our modern day, I could definitely see it.
I mean, I get it because he can pitch and he can hit and he can do all these different things. I think I'm still salty over the fact that he won Rookie of the Year over Miguel Andahar because they gave it to him because he's a dual performing player. That's why they gave Rookie of the Year. Like, they make separate awards for that called the Cy Young Award. So I don't know. But the whole thing with the W, there's going to be a strike. It's a matter of if, not when. So we're going to have 2 lockouts coming. Major League Baseball and the WNBA. And the people that suffer here the most are the fans on both sides, both fronts. Because a lot of these fans are mostly local. They like to go to their local bar and watch the games, and now they're not going to be able to do that because of the greed of the W or the greed of Major League Baseball.
And that goes to a point for Ben because of the rumblings we've heard of the WNBA basically forcing the Sun of Connecticut out of their market to Houston, where, and again, there's been talk of them maybe being bought by the Celtics owner. They rejected that bid to move the team from Connecticut to Boston with a better ownership group, but they've been so hell-bent on the Houston market that they have to pry away a franchise out of a market to go back to Houston. I've sat through that already with the Chargers, as you already know, though. But I guess, Ben, with where things stand from your perspective, though, as a basketball fan, I mean, we're literally 24 hours away from the clock literally hitting midnight on a strike for the WNBA.
Cue the Donna Greca clown show.
Oh, here we go.
Clown show, clown show, clown show, clown show.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the owners and the players. I mean, like you mentioned, Kyle, it seems like that there might be a little bit of talks, but I mean, we've seen this with negotiations, that there seems to sometimes be a phase where you might be kind of getting onto something, but then there's also, like Nick was talking about, revenue. Like when you have revenue as a negotiating type of factor, it's always tough because for a fact that the owners want to obviously get their money, all different type of franchises, and there's different markets that, of course, obviously have more money than other markets, especially, with WNBA, look at like LA, like the Sparks, and just bigger markets, obviously.
Liberty.
Liberty, the New York. So it's like, it's all competition. And that's what obviously makes it tough, is that the competition, you have the markets kind of battle with back and forth with each other of how the revenue is going to be shared at the end of the day. And it's just, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't.
I just don't buy the fact where they're basically claiming poverty, but they hit the revenue sharing number, as Callan and I talked about in the last episode of Press Row. So they ended up having to pay the player like $8 million, if I'm not mistaken, because they hit revenue sharing goals. So obviously there is money. They just are playing foul and acting like there isn't.
Exactly. And again, folks, the plan right now is at about 9:01 Pacific, 12:01 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday, March 10th, that we will have some kind of a 7-hour. Tom's been craving a 6-hour lockout show for me and Nick to do in host, but we're waiting to kind of see where things play out. But I think, though, Dino, it's inevitable at this rate. I think, though, what's been more surprising, is how we've heard a lot of rumblings, though, of player infighting a little bit, though. Nick and I talked on Press Row, though, about how they had their first face-to-face meeting, I think, in January, and the league didn't bring anything to the table. They literally just showed up there and just sat there like, hi, how you doing? Your thoughts on where the lockout's at for the WNBA?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at this point it is pretty inevitable. I think I mean, often when you have these types of negotiations with these, I mean, this might actually not apply as much to the WNBA, but the common saying is it's a battle between billionaires and millionaires, and that'll probably apply a lot more with the baseball one that's upcoming next season. But and it nobody ever thinks about how much the fans will suffer without the product, and how much not having it for a certain amount of time can make fans not fans anymore.
Well, you have Unrivaled now too, which is going to steal competition away from the WNBA also.
And actually, so something kind of similar also, I don't know how much it relates, but how actually just a couple of years ago we had the writers and actors went on strike in Hollywood.
Yes.
And so that
actually, by the way, Dino, crippled San Diego Comic-Con that summer, because me and my girlfriend went, and it was very much bare bones that during that time because of a strike.
Yeah, there was, I mean, so many shows had shortened seasons. A lot of like shows had to be postponed or canceled altogether because there was no writers or actors. I think ultimately it just hurts the products. And so that's the case, especially with the WNBA that's trying so hard to get more fans. It's going to hurt them to just not have a product ready for this season.
And especially when you've been building all this momentum because of Clark, Reese, and Brink, and Page, and all the rookies who've come in and lit the world on fire. As I've long said, everybody here loses. We lose as a network because we lose a sport to cover over the summer. Fans that want to go to games like, maybe myself, and maybe Nick goes to Barclays, Ben goes to Unkinsville, if Dino goes to a game, for example. All of us are losers here come tomorrow, sadly.
Yeah.
Happens way. But again, we'll keep an eye on where things stand, though. Again, Nick and I are planning still the lengthy Tom Albano wanted lengthy show for Tuesday when, in fact, the lockout goes to a strike. Hopefully, we'll see where that goes, but that will be later time and date. Gents, to close up the night, let's pour one out for the Magic City night at the Atlanta Hawks game next Monday. Maxx Crosby's time in Vegas, and even South Carolina women's basketball getting clobbered by Texas on Sunday to lose the SEC championship. Nick Morgeson, who do you pour one out for on this Monday, now Tuesday on the East Coast?
Oh, the Hawks Magic City night. I would pour one out for, because what were the Hawks logically thinking that they were going to put out a Magic City promotion night for strip clubs, calling it culture or pop culture or whatever you want to call it? It's part of the environment of Atlanta, knowing that it was done at an NBA game where there's kids and young adults that are not old enough to go to these strip clubs. I mean, the only thing that would have made it funny is if Lou Williams was like the poster child for this Magic City Monday promotion. Yes. They should have had him like walk in with a plate of lemon pepper wings just to make that full promotion. That would have been amazing. They should have just had him and like his family just walk in with plates of lemon pepper wings. But I'm pouring one out for that. And of course, the people were going to critique the NBA because they stopped it because they couldn't stop gambling and they can't stop tanking and they can't stop all these other issues. But they picked the strip club promotion in Atlanta. That's the one they choose to say, we're not doing this. We're going to say no, and we're just going to move on. So I'll pour one out for that.
Ben Cruz, what do you pour one out for on this Monday, now Tuesday on the East Coast?
Yeah, the Hawk situation. I mean, that's just complete clusterfuck. It's really, there's nothing else really I want to say about it. It's just they're really it's really just kind of explains the overall situation with the Atlanta Hawks. They move on from Trae Young, obviously is their big star piece that they've had. Now they have this situation. It's a clusterfuck. That's what really it is.
All right, Dino, who do you pour one out for this evening, my friend?
Wait, what were the choices again?
Your choices were the Atlanta Hawks with their Magic City night promotion, Maxx Crosby leaving the Raiders, and then South Carolina basketball on the women's side losing the SEC title, conference tournament title to Texas on Sunday.
I mean, I probably would have also said Atlanta, but because my two co-hosts already said that, I'll go with Maxx Crosby. Yeah, I mean, but not so much like Maxx Crosby, but yeah, like the Raiders and the Raider fan base really, it's just it's unfortunate that they just can't keep any good players on the Raiders. Obviously I can, as a Jets fan, I can commiserate, how they just haven't been able to, put out a good team in several years.
I think I'm with Nick and Ben, though. I think I got to pour one out for the Atlanta Hawks. Like, what are you guys thinking? I get it, but poor execution on the idea. Come on now.
I see what you did there. Poor execution.
Yeah, poor execution, exactly.
Oh, wait. You got one more comment there. Raiders at least picked up Linenbaum today. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Fair point by our good man, Nate Miller. All right, gang, before we lock up here for this Monday, we're looking across the ticker and thinking about how fast the ground can shift beneath your feet. 12 years is a lifetime in the NFL. And in Tampa Bay, Mike Evans was more than a wide receiver. He was the heartbeat of the offense and the gold standard of consistency. But tonight, that Buck for life dream is over. He now heads to the Bay Area to chase the second ring with the Niners. And it's a cold reminder that in this league, the only constant is change. Tampa loses a legend while the Niners gain a cheat code. And speaking of legends, how about Ben and the UConn women again? 50 straight wins and 24 conference titles. Right. They aren't just playing basketball, but they are conducting a masterclass in being inevitable. But as dominant as the Huskies are, Texas reminded a lot of people that no one is bulletproof. To walk into that tournament, though, and knock off South Carolina, that's how you send a message, though, to the rest of the country that the road, though, to the Final Four does not have a single lane. Then there is the aforementioned Atlanta Hawks. They wanted to celebrate the culture of their city with Magic City Night, only for the league to pull the plug because it was a little too authentic for the corporate partners. But it's also the classic NBA push and pull. They want the flavor of the streets until it's time to actually sit at the table. Adam Silver might have taken the lemon pepper wings off the menu, but he can't cancel the soul of a city. Huge thank you, as always, again to both Nick, Ben, and Dino for joining us tonight on the first day of the tampering storm. As always, we are back next week with more topics here, but check is on the house. We ask you to please get home safe. As always, folks, again, follow us on social media. That includes us on Twitter, IG, and TikTok, all at the ETB Lounge, and also at ETB Network. And of course, find us on YouTube over at youtube.com/ETB Network. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, where I think, Nick, we finally have gotten past 2,000 watch hours. Now we're on the road to 3K. Yes.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely past that now. So the goal is to get to the other half so that we can actually monetize this channel and get some brand deals and stuff so we can do some funny things with brands.
Come on, CarMax, let's go.
Well, that one just for the NBA alone. But wait, crispy tenders at CarMax. What?
Good time.
No one's going to get that reference at all.
No, unless you're with us on the during the playback era, sadly.
Oh, well, it is what it is. But
exactly.
I guess that's it for another episode of Lounge, huh?
Christy wants Mountain Dew, yes. Again, I literally have $1 of stock in Yum Foods for Taco Bell. Please, come on, Taco Bell.
You would.
Yes, help out a stakeholder here. With that, though, folks, for Nick Morganson, Ben Cruz, and Dino Taibbi, Callan McClurg saying that the Lounge is officially closed until whenever the hell D-Mart and the comedy crew come back for the weekend on Saturday or Sunday.
Sunday.
Back with you folks on Sunday. We're back with you, though, next Monday on Stone Cold Steve Austin 316 day, the day before St. Patrick's Day, for another talk about with all things sports. And I think we should be getting into March Madness, actually, I think, next Monday after Selection Sunday.
Yeah,
that's bracket will be out.
Yeah,
right.
That's the plan. By the way,
dissect the bracket for 2 whole hours. Well, on top of the fact of Selection Sunday show coverage on Sunday as well.
I hope so. But 227 people watching tonight. So thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you to everybody who got involved in the action. And I guess as you close the door, so that means no more damage to the bar. At least for now.
The bar is locked, and we're good until the weekend crew comes to raise hell again in a good way on Sunday.
All right. For everybody, have a good night, everybody. We will see you next time. See you around.